All right, how's it going? I got another video for you. Democratic mayor leaves party to join GOP, says he can't stand with socialists. So before we get into it, if you would like to follow and help support me, you can do so on Subscribestar. Also, a little side note here. I think I may do these for sure Monday through Friday, which would technically be like Tuesday morning to Saturday morning for me when they actually get out and get published. And I may have Saturday and Sunday would be optional ones, but I like I may spend Saturday and Sunday working on other projects and like side jobs and stuff that I have going on. But I for sure want to try to get out, let's say 5. Let's go for 5 a week. 6 and 7 would be bonus. So, all right. Let's get into this. This came out on July 16th. I'm recording this on the 20th. After being elected as a Democrat, North Las Vegas Mayor John Lee said on Fox and Friends Tuesday that he's switching to the Republican Party. Lee argued that the Democrats' elitist and socialist agenda is not one he can stand with anymore. Mayor John Lee, they had an election recently for leadership, and 4 of the 5 people were card-carrying members of the Socialist Party. It's not the party that I grew up with 25 years ago in this environment, and it's not the party I can stand with anymore. This kind of relates back to the whole, I want to say during the election, was it Minnesota? Like they had like the Iron Range or whatever they call it, and then, like they had all these like, they'd been like Democrats for I don't know how long. Because technically, like I guess decades ago, Democrats were seen as the party of the working class. But now, like Democrats are like the party of like the illegal immigrants and communists and socialists. Because it's part of like Trump came in like for the working class for like tax cuts, and to like kind of almost have between like laws and tariffs and stuff to like promote business like in the US and it not get like exported to like Mexico or China if it can be helped. Like NAFTA was something that happened in the 90s under Bill Clinton, I believe, that like jobs got like shipped overseas for like cheap manufacturing and stuff. Then that may be starting to go on, that may be happening again under Biden. So we'll see how that goes, because it's like what, 6 months into Biden's thing and things are going crazy. The working class or working men and women in this country, and also the small business owners, are not a part of the conversation anymore. It all has to do with the elitist, and it has to do with the socialists. That is not the agenda I have in mind for this country of the future. When you're a pro-life Democrat, a pro-gun Democrat, it would just stop there. Like, if you say that you're a pro-life Democrat and pro-gun Democrat, for like a lot of people in the last few years, that's like a crazy notion. Like, you can't be, because Republicans are known as the ones being, at least now today, as pro-life and pro-gun. But I mean, are somewhat conservative, like working class Democrats, but they're like getting pushed out in recent years. And you're a very conservative person, that's not really well known of the Democratic Party anymore. And so for me to hang on as long as I did, hoping the party would change, it didn't. It got worse. So therefore, I found a new place that I can put my allegiance to and help. Once again, forget about the last 8 years. It's the next 4 years that predict the future. There seems to be where everything is, I mean, obviously, the virus, I guess we can call it, happened last year, and a lot of things were shut down, and especially like manufacturing, so there's kind of like a lag and delay. Then like supply chains and stuff are now still trying to catch up. So there's like there's like certain things, especially with like the chips going into cars and stuff. So there's like a constriction on the supply of either new cars or like and like especially like rental cars and stuff too. There's like a restriction. So the supply has dwindled, so the demand is going up and prices are going up and inflation is going up. I think the month over month inflation, they were saying they wanted it to be, I believe, like 0.4 or 0.5%, ended up being like 0.9%. So it was like almost double what they were expecting, like month over month. And it may be, with like a lot of the markets don't know if inflation is something that's going to be temporary for the next 6 months or it's going to be something longer because of everything that happened and take years or some estimates even like a decade to get back to normal, so to speak. In an op-ed for the Daily Caller, former CIA officer Brian Dean Wright wrote that he left the Democratic Party due to the second impeachment of Trump, saying that it only serves to exacerbate the political divide. This is a different individual here. And there was I want to say, I can't remember his name off top, but I want to say there was like a New Jersey Democrat that left the party. I don't think he necessarily, I can't remember if maybe he went Republican. There was another one that left for Republican, and there's another one that left the Democratic Party and just became independent. So the Democratic Party itself is like becoming crazy with like all these like far leftists and like Antifa and BLM and socialists and communists and all these people like infiltrating it and pushing out the middle of the road, I guess you can say, Democrats. Because a lot of people, like a massive amount of people, like would fall mainly in the center. And it's just like whether they're kind of like center right or they're center left. But you have like this, especially like I guess on the right too. But a lot of that seems to get like squashed out immediately. But the extremists on the left are like there to stay, and we'll get into it, but they get almost like promoted and upheld, and their like charges dropped because the DA for whatever area they're in like favors them. But if somebody walks into the White House and the cops let them enter, they want to like give them like felony charges because like it's the darkest day in history since the Civil War. I'm like, get out of here. For years, Democrats like me have watched with increasing alarm as our own political leaders and activists have used an endless stream of hateful, violent, and ultimately un-American rhetoric that has resulted in billions of dollars in economic damage and given birth to a violent national movement, Wright wrote. Wright said that the modern left is infused with systematic hatred that has inflamed profound political divisions and the predictable outcomes that come with them, most especially violence and destruction. The most egregious example came in the summer of 2020 with the leftist race riots that caused upwards of $2 billion in damages, he said, adding that Democratic leaders didn't offer condemnations when fires raged, property was vandalized, and lives were destroyed. They're saying somewhere between is either 26 to 30 people were like their deaths were like directly related to all like the BLM riots. It was like $2 billion of like property damage. And it's funny going back to that, like people kept on saying, oh, they have insurance, they can like rebuild the property. But a lot of what happened was like property or the insurance only covered like maybe like $25,000 for like rubble removal after like a building got destroyed, but it cost like $75,000 or $100,000 to do it. So like even though they had the insurance literally wasn't able to cover the amount. So they like the business that they may have possibly spent their whole lives building was just like destroyed in a matter of days. So Wright pointed out that democratically elected officials incited violence in 2020. A woman in New York City threw a Molotov cocktail at 4 police officers sitting in their vehicle during a riot and were unarmed only because the gas bomb failed to ignite. I believe that Kamala Harris was actually promoting a like a GoFundMe for to post bail for the criminals that were doing this so that they can get out of jail. Also, this is kind of like on the side note. Well, kind of. Maxine Waters at one point in time was, calling, like, essentially inciting violence, doing a call to arms, saying people need to like get into other people's face and confront them. That was one instance. There was another instance. She was at like Brooklyn Heights in it was Minnesota, right? Or Minneapolis, Minnesota. Was that more like she was there during the whole Derek Chauvin trial, saying that we need to get the right income, or no, Biden was saying we should get the right outcome, but she was talking about like if the right outcome doesn't happen, then we need to. She was essentially calling for like more violence, which is crazy that like an elected official would go and call for that and like seemingly nothing happens. But I mean, it's kind of like, it's almost like part and parcel of the like Democratic officials now. They call for violence, then someone on the right says, "Hey, you shouldn't do that." Then like, "Oh no, what did you do?" Throw the book at the people on the right, but the left, like, they're cool. Then a lot of people are seeing this too. And a lot of people are dealing with the whole virus thing. Like a lot of people may have been like at home more, so they're able to like look up stuff more on the internet, especially like certain sports and stuff that maybe had occupied their time in previous years, so they had more free time. So a lot of people are like waking up to the corruption that is going on. Next, a group of rioters in Seattle tried to seal up the doors of a police precinct and ignite the building on fire, burning cops alive, he said. In all, over 700 federal, state, and local law enforcement officers sustained injuries in violence perpetrated by leftist rioters. That includes retired St. Louis Police Captain David Dorn, who died defending the city he loved from those encouraged by the Democratic Party's incitement, he added. For Democrats like me, we have no choice. We have to leave, but where do we go politically now that our party can no longer be salvaged? The answer is to be found in the exit data from the 2020 election. We're already leaving, it turns out, and joining a new populist Republican Party. So going on that too, I think the Republican Party has had a major change in the last 4 to 5 years since like Trump came in. It became almost like, well, here's the thing too, like people, like you have certain people that want to call Trump a fascist, but if Trump ran like 10, maybe 15 years ago, and even before, he's like kind of like, he checked all the boxes like what a normal Democrat would be. He ended up being worse for like the Second Amendment than Obama was, because he passed that executive order for the bump stock ban, which was like a terrible thing he shouldn't have done. Because now that kind of like opens the door for like the ATF being like, we don't like that accessory. Then like that gets in the whole thing, like, oh, if you have, it's the thing going on now with like the pistol braces, like well, if you got it on your arm, then it's a certain way, but if you're using it more as like a shoulder stock, then that's illegal. Or it gets into like the nitty gritty of like certain accessories making guns work in a certain way can like, and if certain laws pass, they can like make millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of gun owners like felons overnight. So a lot of that should have been like, we need less gun laws, essentially. That's getting a little bit off subject. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, I don't know, they call them like, call them like disaffected liberals, because like essentially, like, I don't have any issues. Like, if somebody's like a classic liberal, like Jordan Peterson's like a classic liberal, like, you may not agree with everything, but they don't have this, like, a lot of these like leftists have like and they almost seem like they have like this intent of like malice behind it. Like, they're doing stuff for malice, not because they have certain principles and values that they necessarily believe in. Because especially with this whole thing, like, the Democratic Party has been like, we need like open borders, we need like let like all these people in. Then this issue, I made a video a couple of videos back, this whole issue is going on with Cuba, and like, well, we need Cuba's under, or has been under, a communist regime, and of course that has gone terrible, like it always does. Then like the news is trying to spin it as like, oh no, they're protesting because they want like more COVID vaccines. Like, people like, no, they want like freedom. They're like going on the streets yelling libertad, which I think is Spanish for liberty, I would assume. But then like, so people are like trying to help them out, and like technically that would fall under like refugee status, like legal asylees type thing. The Democratic, then like Biden and them are like, no, you can't come here. Because I know there were like a ton of boats off Florida, like trying to like give them supplies and stuff. And I believe DeSantis somehow, because the dictatorship in Cuba, this is getting to another subject, they like cut off the internet to try to like stop the spread of information. I think DeSantis was trying to figure out a way that he could like blast satellite there somehow to like give them internet or something like that. I don't know how that's going on. But essentially, like, they're like for open borders, but not these. And like, they're like, well, if they came here, they'd probably vote Republican, so we don't want them here. Because I guess there was a county that's like been blue, but I think it might have been like heavy. Maybe there's like a large Cuban population there. I can't remember correctly, but like, it's like a safe blue. Then it flipped for red in this last election, and they were like freaking out because they didn't know what's going on. But I think that should be. We'll wrap this up. Tell me what you think. You can like, comment, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. I have this on YouTube, on BitChute. I may start uploading natively on Minds again. But it has like a 21-minute limit, so it's a little, sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, depends on how long I ramble. But if you want to like support me and all that good stuff, Subscribestar is a way to do it. But yeah, that's it for this video. All right, later.